George Jr. Now, in addition to radio, you can get us, of course, at 101.1 FM radio. And you can also get us at the website. It is rcistlucia.com. You can also download our previous shows on that platform. And you can get us live. We're also streaming on Facebook. Just search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International on Facebook. And, of course, be sure to like and share that, please, with your friends and family. A little later on, after we speak with our very special guest, you'll be able to call in to tell us what's on your plate. That number is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046, as well as our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. You can message into that as well with your questions and comments. Again, it is 724-0008. And, of course, a good afternoon to all our followers in the Facebook live chat as well. Now, our very special guest today is the newly accredited United States Ambassador to the Eastern Caribbean and Barbados, of course, and to St. Lucia. And he is His Excellency Roger Nias joining us. And we'll be speaking with him in just a bit about himself, of course, and a number of other issues in respect of the U.S.-Caribbean relations. But first, some birthday greetings going out to Miss Nalana Stewart. Happy birthday to you, Nalana. Hope you're having a fantastic day. To Brian Vidal, happy birthday to you, sir. Hope you're not working too hard on this very special day of yours. And also to Miss Brittany Barnard, happy her to you. Wishing you an absolutely fantastic birthday. And for all those celebrating today, your special celebrity twin is Justin Timberlake. He turns 43 today as well. A bit of history for today. And in the year 1865, some U.S. history, in fact, the United States Congress passed by a vote of 121 to 24, the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution abolishing slavery in the United States. In the year 1943, a bit of World War II history, German Field Marshal Friedrich Paulus surrendered to Soviet troops during the Battle of Stalingrad. 1985 on this day, South African President P.W. Botha offered to free Nelson Mandela if he denounced violence. And in 2019 on this day, a bit of interesting history there, it was calculated that colonization in the Americas in the late 1500s killed so many people that it cooled the planet and led to what is known as the Little Ice Age. And that was according to a scientific report published in Quaternary Science Reviews. Now we move on to our special dish of the day. The Daily Dish is brought to you the kind compliments of our good friends at Tiles Plus.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Lance Road in Castries, Bosses Jugosile, and Flax Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Serving now, The Daily Dish.
And welcome back to the Lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Now, we're so very pleased to have with us the newly accredited ambassador of the United States to St. Lucia, but of course the broader title is in fact Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. He is His Excellency Roger Nias, and he's joining us here for the first time in St. Lucia. So certainly welcome to St. Lucia, and of course welcome to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International.
Thank you so much. It's a absolutely beautiful country. I'm so happy to be here.
Now, interestingly enough, I think somebody asked me early on, is this the first time that a U.S. ambassador is coming on radio in St. Lucia? I'm not sure. We can't say for sure.
I'll take it.
But if that is the case, congratulations, and thank you for coming into the lunchroom to share with us today. And now, of course, you just came in, presented your credentials to His Excellency the Governor General, the Acting Governor General, and getting your feet wet in the Caribbean. But you're originally from Washington State.
Yes.
On the Pacific Coast.
The better Washington.
Yes, indeed. Not where the politicians are in the main, but the state of Washington. And for many people, I suppose, who may be watching Sleepless in Seattle or
That's right.
Seinfeld and all of those interesting programs that come out of that state. That's where you're from. Pretty far away from home, being here in the Caribbean.
Yes, it does. It takes two different flights to get here, and that's on a good day. So I come from Washington State. My mom was Native American, and so I come from a long line of Native American people who lived on the Pacific Ocean. They were often fisher people. And it was the tribe that greeted Lewis and Clark, the explorers, and essentially kept them alive. They were probably going to starve to death if the Chinook people didn't intervene and help them. And many consider the Chinook tribe one of the first diplomatic tribes. So I come from a long line of diplomats. And my dad is a Norwegian American. So if you see a photo of me, you'll see I have blonde hair. I don't look as Native American as you might assume, but my great uncle was the chair of the tribe, which is essentially the chief. So it's a really it's a wonderful tribe. I'm really honored to be one of the first U.S. ambassadors of Native American descent. There really have only been like 4 or 5 ever in history. So I come from this. So Washington State is home to it's a beautiful place. It has lots of trees and water. It looks similar to this. But it's a lot cooler. It doesn't have as much sunny days.
A lot more rain, perhaps, as well. Although we get a fair bit of rain right now.
We get a lot
well.
of rain as well. More gray days than rain, but it's also home to a tremendous amount of innovation. So we have companies like Microsoft and Amazon and the Starbucks coffee you see, and there're just a ton of great brands that come out of that region. It's known for innovation. And I come from a private sector background, so I've had 30 years in the private sector before my government service. So Washington State, I do call it the better Washington, just because it's my home, and it's also, I think it is often forgot even in the U.S. because it's out. Mm-hmm. It's up in the Pacific Northwest. It's in that upper left corner of the United States, and but it's a really interesting area with a lot of opportunities for collaboration with the 7 countries that I will be hopefully accredited to soon. And I was accredited today to St. Lucia, so I am the U.S. ambassador to St. Lucia, and I'm really honored to hold that title. And I actually got to sit down with your prime minister after that and had a one-on-one chat, and he is really smart, visionary, and I think we will work really well together.
That's a really interesting perspective and background that you're bringing to the table. In particular, as you mentioned, your First Nations roots, which of course is, as you rightfully are pointing out, is pretty rare within the diplomatic space. And of course, right here in St. Lucia and in a lot of parts of this region, a lot of interest as well in those indigenous peoples. Potential for collaboration maybe on that level as well.
Absolutely. I would love that. I'm seeking opportunities to collaborate. My team knows that that's something I'm really interested in meeting, indigenous people in the countries that I will be, spending a lot of time in. Mm-hmm. You'll see me a lot. It's not, I live on Barbados. That's where our embassy is, but I will be traveling here frequently and look forward to meeting a lot of the key stakeholders. I met a couple St. Lucian entrepreneurs yesterday, young entrepreneurs who are building businesses, and that was really fun, and I want to do more of that when I come back as well.
And of course, within that context, as you're making the point in terms of connections and travel, I know that's one of the areas, definitely a lot of interest in a lot of St. Lucians. The matter of getting visas to travel to the United States is a major one. And we have heard some pronouncements coming out of the embassy in the United States in terms of potentially the expansion of diplomatic presence in the Eastern Caribbean. Right now, based in Bridgetown, and I think there's also a small embassy in St. George's, Grenada.
That's
but
right. Possibly
the establishment of 2 other embassies in the Eastern Caribbean.
Well, I think you put your finger on it, that this is a priority for the Biden administration. this region. The prior ambassador was a civil servant, and she was here for a long time, 8 years. I am replacing her as a political appointee. So actually, I come in with a very different skill set from the prior ambassador, and I was also handpicked by the president. So I know the president. I've hosted the president at my home in Seattle. I have a fun story to share that when I was selected, when the president selected me for this role, I wasn't given options. I wasn't given, here are your 5 countries you can choose from. I was given this amazing option. And so when they offered it to me, they said, well, you can take a day and think about it. And I said, I accept. And they said, no, you can have a day. I said, no. When you said Barbados and St. Lucia and all these amazing countries, I accept immediately. I don't need to think about it. I accept. So I'm really so excited to be here. And it's interesting for people on the west coast of the United States. When we want to go to a tropical location, we usually go south. We go to Mexico, we go to Hawaii. It's just easy for us, one flight. For people on the East Coast, they're much more familiar with the Caribbean. So for me, this is a great. I've been to the Caribbean before on a few occasions, but I'm really excited to get to know each country. Each country is unique. It's special, and I call them the Magnificent Seven. So these are the 7 countries under my purview, and it's probably the last time a U.S. ambassador will have 7 countries, because it's very unusual. It's very difficult to manage. But because the Biden administration is so committed to this region, and Vice President Harris announced, more than a year ago, that there is a plan to explore expanding the U.S. embassies in the region by 2. So it'd be looking to identify 2 additional locations for U.S. embassies that will take a while to develop, but that's a huge bit of news. And right. I know there's a lot of interest, like, well, who's going to get the new embassies? And that all that work is happening behind the scenes right now. And hopefully this year we will be able to share that. But it's I think it shows a commitment to the region. It's a we talk about it within the State Department as America's third border. We have Canada, we have Mexico, and then we have the Caribbean. And I think that's a really important point, not only from a security standpoint, but we are so close. We have family members. Each person I've met here has family living in the U.S. or has a business partner living in the U.S. or wants to expand their business in the U.S. There's so many important ties that one, I think we have a lot to learn from this region as well. And you'll find that's I'm a very open person, that I'm interested in learning, and so I'm eager to learn from the amazing people here in this region.
In fact, I think Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Honorable Keith Rowley, when he was meeting recently with Secretary of State Blinken, was actually saying that every office that he goes into in the United States, he's meeting a Trinidadian or somebody who's second generation. Exactly. Parents were Trinidadian, and that is really, although we're small, then the footprint of the Caribbean in the United States is pretty wide.
It is. And I think of, it's in many ways, on the other side of my heritage is Norwegian side, right? Norway is also a very small country. And so there are more Norwegian Americans living in the United States than there are Norwegians living in Norway. So it's very similar. And I think that, the U.S. has a proud history of being a country of immigrants, and we can't forget that. And I think we have so much to share and learn, and is that melting pot that I think makes America really special.
And of course, actually having a potentially, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but potentially an embassy in Castries, in St. Lucia, would certainly be able to improve on people's access to the United States. When you look at the statistics, definitely Barbados as an embassy holding country has a much higher rate in terms of how they can access visas And so hopefully, no doubt, that'll be a major issue for St. Lucians looking to be able to visit the United States.
Yeah, I think that wherever these embassies, wherever they land, they, and just for all the other countries that are like, oh gosh, what if we don't get one of those? I think over time, hopefully we have more. I mean, that would certainly be a goal, and I think that each of these countries is so important. They're important friends, they're neighbors, and strategic partners. Personally, I am a big fan of the expansion. I think that it says a lot. It speaks volumes about the importance of this region, and not just the countries that receive them, but the more U.S. embassies, the better in my mind.
And of course, there's a pretty large American footprint here in terms of the number of visitors who come in and are looking for consular services.
Exactly. If we're not number one, American tourists, they're probably number two.
I think it's number one, actually.
Number one.
And it's the one that has been growing faster. We're over pre-COVID numbers, definitely.
That's amazing.
From the United States.
And I think that's, and Americans are, Americans are great travelers. And it's like, and I personally, again, I'm very familiar with the travel industry. I've worked in and around the travel industry for many years, including in airlines and hotels and restaurants, that, I want to see, this is my personal goal, is I want to see these travelers stop and really experience the countries, not just sit on the boat and have, the amazing food that they serve, but to get out and actually see the real countries and meet the real people, and ideally, purchase, locally made things from local business people. So that, for me, I think that is a sign of a sustainable tourism industry. If they're just coming and sitting on a boat, that's nice and you get fees from that, but I think you have such rich cultures. The music, the food is amazing. I've had great food in my very short trip here. I'm really excited to come back, but I want to meet like the local artists and see the local vendors. That is a special part of tourism. That's how it's done in Seattle, because we have Pike Place Market, the world famous fish market and vegetable stand. It's this
the world of flying fish.
Yeah, the flying fish is exactly right. The flying fish.
Not our flying fish.
You're not. Yeah, it's a flying salmon.
Right.
But it is. That is like that. Those are real. Real farmers. They're vendors. Right. It was caught. That salmon was probably caught that day or the day before, and so that's what I would hope for your tourism industry. In my limited experience, you want these people spending money here. And that's what I'd love to see. And as the industry evolves and develops more, it's creating more opportunities for that.
Now, no pun intended, but you come from a blue state. You're right by the ocean, by the sea. It's
Yes.
also a very green state as well, in terms of the focus that Washington places on the environment, on climate issues. It sometimes may be crowded by a lot of other noise coming out of the United States regarding some of the policy pulls here and there. But in terms of what you're bringing to this look into the Caribbean, and of course there is that climate alliance that the United States wishes to strengthen.
Yes.
With the Caribbean.
Yes, the PAC 2030. I would say that where I come from geographically, for this Seattle Pacific Northwest, which is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful place. I look out at, from my home in Seattle, I see mountains, I see water, I see the Space Needle, and it's just a stunning place. But and then my personal heritage of both, Native American and, coming from, family coming from Norway, that, I care a lot about the environment. I care a lot about climate change and what we can do to address climate change. And not just putting a Band-Aid on it, but actually making real changes that sometimes they're difficult, but they're necessary to preserve preserve our way of life, preserve our habitat, preserve our wildlife, but most importantly to make sure people are safe, because where I grew up, it's one of the prime tsunami threat zones in the United States. It is in my hometown, they actually built a tsunami evacuation platform on top of the public school. So people, can in a tsunami event, which I know that's a real threat here as well, that you have to get to high ground. Well, if there's one road, you're not going to get out by road. So, they created this kind of very novel platform to, have people on top of the school in the event of a tsunami. So I think, I'm bringing a lot of those experiences of where I grew up, and applying that to this new role. And at first, when I was offered this amazing job, which I do believe is probably the best diplomatic job in the world, that I was like, what do I know about the Caribbean? Honestly, I come from Seattle. We're a, it's cold in the winter. We ski, we have snow occasionally. And then the more I got into it, what I realized is I have exactly the right experience. I understand, being an indigenous person, I can absolutely relate to, what people in the Caribbean are dealing with, from lack of culture, lack of language, lack of all these things that are under threat, to climate and how climate impacts our world, to my background in business and bringing, private sector expertise to really complicated issues. I think I am so lucky. I'm really grateful to President Biden for choosing me. And I think that says a lot about the region. I mean, he specifically chose me for this region, and my direction from the White House, which was a direction, they said, go out and strengthen these relationships, travel more, make sure to engage the real stakeholders, and that's what I intend to do. So, I would not be successful if I sat in the embassy for the next few years. That is not success in my mind. I will be out, hopefully, meeting a lot of amazing people in St. Lucia and the other 6 countries.
And that thrust towards that change in terms of how we are powering our vehicles, our homes, the energy shift that has to be made, in particular towards renewables. Are you seeing potential opportunities there? I mean, I know, for instance, that's big. Although, I mean, you wouldn't think it. It's Washington is in the far northwest, as you mentioned. But I know a lot of the early pioneers in solar PV. Yes. They came out of Washington State. And,
that's right.
And so is there that potential
absolutely.
for liaison?
Absolutely. There? Not only a potential, but I intend for my, to leverage my business contacts, to leverage my personal contacts, to ideally bring people out here to share expertise, to talk about solutions to really complex issues. But yes, I think I come from a tech community, so lots of interesting technology that's out there, and then also philanthropy. I mean, I come from the home of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the largest philanthropic organization in the world. So they're funding really innovative things all over the world. I'd personally love to see them funding some things in this region. So I'll be having some.
Rumor has it he passes through sometimes.
Yeah, and I'll have some of these conversations. Yeah. I will be not only an advocate for the United States, but an advocate for each of these 7 countries.
The issue of security, and I know we don't have very much time, but I do want to touch on it a little bit. For instance, we're seeing what's going on in the Bahamas. Spike in the number of homicides there, and of course a resultant advisory coming out of the U.S. State Department regarding that travel to the Bahamas. Crime is a major issue all across the Caribbean. It's on everybody's plate, and every politician's minds at this point in time. The partnership between the United States and the Caribbean on the issue of crime reduction, and not just, of course, reducing the number of guns, but also the long-term prevention of crime.
Well, I think this is one of my most important roles as ambassador. Enhancing regional security, addressing the violent crime, the youth crime, is is a huge part, and it's very personal to me. I lost my brother to gun violence. He was shot and killed when he was 23. I was, only 13, and that really shattered my whole family. I mean, anyone that's impacted by this personally is never the same. And I think if we can do more, I will commit to absolutely doing more. I really will work with the team. I know we have some amazingly talented people in these areas that I work with on a regular basis. We would like to strengthen our security partnership with St. Lucia, and that ideally includes training and additional resources. Those are all things that are absolutely on the table, and we need to do more. I mean, there's no question. It's you don't want to be a country that gets a travel advisory, because it will have a devastating impact on your tourism industry. So I think that we all need to do more to make sure that your people are your people are safe, and our travelers are safe, and communities are safe. I mean, it's really. I know there's a lot of questions about, well, these are targeted, people are being targeted. These are targeted killings. It's like, well, any killing is too much, right? And it's just, I think we need to make sure that we are, deploying the resources that we can and have at our disposal to help countries like St. Lucia, and that's my commitment.
And of course, in the few minutes that we have left, Ambassador, the matter of foreign aid. Now, I know quite often for a number of Americans, in fact, just yesterday we were sharing this very interesting clip where it suggested that if you ask the average American how much they think their government is spending on foreign aid, they think about a quarter of the budget is going to aid, even though the reality is that it's less than 1%. How do you deal with this matter in terms of letting the U.S. citizen realize that providing support for other countries is actually really important for their own well-being?
Well, I think you just described it exactly how I view it. Is this isn't aid for someone else? It's actually very self-serving in many cases. That this is our security as well. And I think that if we don't secure our third border, as we describe it, then we can't keep our own citizens safe. And I think that these are investments, I think, of mutual benefit. It's not a one-way street. And so sometimes it's how we frame it. I don't think it's a handout. I don't think it's a here, write a check and hand it off to some country. It's like, no, we are partners, and that's how I view it with my team. That we are partners with these countries in helping them, not only protect their citizens, but to protect our citizens.
Wonderful. Ambassador, I know you've got to make a flight, and so we thank you so very much for your time. And perhaps you may want to say a few parting words to the St. Lucian audience.
I thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I think it's a beautiful country. I hope to come back over and over again, and I hope you see me as a partner, a friend, and I just so look forward to our time together.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, His Excellency Roger Nias, the Ambassador of the United States to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. That's our dish of the day. We're going to head across to take in our weather report, and then, of course, back to the program.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. With all kind of tiles, come down to Tiles Plus. We also glad gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses, Jugozi Lanes, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
Island style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, yeah. We'll sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need, is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Crompton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
That's what, of course, on the 1.1. It's now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bar. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between the east and southeast near 14 miles per hour or 22 kilometers per hour, becoming lighter at times. The weather fair to partly cloudy and hazy with a few brief showers. And this also raises persons with respiratory ailments and dust allergies are advised to exercise caution. There's also an advisory here which reads small craft operators and sea beavers are advised to exercise caution due to reduced visibility. And the forecast for the Lesser Antilles, fair to partly cloudy and hazy skies with a few brief showers. The weather summary: the Atlantic high pressure system will continue to generate moderate to brisk easterly winds and locally rough seas across the Lesser Antilles during the next few days. Shallow patches of low-level clouds drifting along the wind flow will cause some cloudy intervals with light to moderate showers over the region during the next 24 hours. Saharan dust will cause reduction in visibility and air quality across the region over the next few days. And this was a weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Talent Bath.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island Style. Whoa. We got the time that will make you happy. Island Style. Oh yeah. We make your dream come alive in Island Style.
We have tiles and thin sets, pieces and ground. Everything you need, is on the house out. For the best price and the latest style. Take a little drive down to Island Style Car.
We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Crompton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Or call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
And welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. We were just speaking with the ambassador for the United States to the Eastern Caribbean, based in Bridgetown, Barbados, His Excellency Roger Nias. And of course, if you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. I've got to send out some very special birthday greetings to my sister-in-law, Mrs. Genevieve Florius Lamar. Happy birthday to you, Jans, and we're hoping that you're having a fantastic birthday celebration. Now, to the phone lines, good afternoon, and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George.
Hi, caller. How are you doing?
Not too bad.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I listened to the ambassador there, but when I was growing up in St. Lucia, I was born in the late 30s, and I grew up in the 40s, 50s as teenagers in St. Lucia. But what I know for sure, we wasn't getting no help, nothing from America. Not even when they eat the crumbs that they left on the table. If they throw it in the Central America, it might fall on your island. Nothing. And even now, we're getting more from China, Taiwan than we getting from America. You agree?
Yeah, direct aid for sure. Is a lot more from Taiwan than the United States at this point in time. Now, I know the U.S. argument usually is that they are the ones who actually are funding a number of the multilateral agencies, so like the World Bank and the IMF. But then again, that's not grant funding in the main. Those are usually concessionary loans that are provided through these agencies, these financial institutions. So it's a different kettle of fish. But in terms of direct aid, you are right. It certainly is pretty low. In fact, I was looking at the foreign assistance website. The United States has a foreign assistance website, which gives very detailed information on U.S. aid across the world, and you can look at it by region, and you can look at it by which departments are involved and what areas that they're supporting. And yeah, so traditionally, in the case of St. Lucia, the figure has been pretty low. It's been less than, on average, it's less than $1 million US dollars a year. There was a lot of assistance at one point being provided through maybe U.S. aid, and so we've seen in the past maybe investments like some of the schools, for instance, like the St. Mary's College, the old technical wing there, was actually constructed by the United States. But then of course you had maybe private philanthropic individuals. So like for instance, Mr. Hess Oil, provide a lot of investment there in terms of schools and what have you. But in terms of the direct government of the United States of America support, it has not really been very it's not been very large compared to other players.
The way they think probably they was helping us, I don't know. But every year they used to come down to St. Lucia and take workers to go and cut cane in Florida and pick oranges and pick tobacco. So every year you'll find so many people live in the island.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you said so, because
things like that.
Yes. In fact, and we've seen a lot more of that now of late to Canada, but in fact there is a program that the U.S. government does have for that type of seasonal employment, and we haven't really seen very much of it being promoted in the past. But I think we're now seeing. I was told, in fact, that there is a push now to try to see if they can actually get more, especially for the hospitality sector, where we'd probably have a bit of an advantage in terms of the type of training that we have here in St. Lucia that's being prevalent. So they actually do need a lot of workers. A lot of them come out of Jamaica and other Caribbean countries, but I'm not sure why. Again, maybe it might be the absence of a dedicated embassy to push a lot of these agendas, maybe, and so let's hope that push towards strengthening the diplomatic relations in terms of the physical presence and manpower here in St. Lucia will help the Eastern Caribbean in that regard, because definitely I think there's a lot more potential in those areas as well. But a lot of other areas, no doubt, Caller, like the issue of training, I think is another area where the U.S. can certainly do quite a bit. Now, you see, what you'll find is that sometimes it's usually the private institutions that are doing certain things. So some of the universities will, in and of themselves, provide scholarships and bursaries and whatnot. And we've seen those kind of things like with Cameron University or Midwestern and I think IIT at one point in time, in Illinois Institute of Technology. So you get a lot of these, but I don't know how that actually pans out in terms of saying that, look, this is a government to government arrangement. Those certainly need to be heightened and enhanced.
Well, to me, the way I would see America give us a good a good help was in immigration as well. If to say that we should travel because we're in Central America and all these South American countries, they come out from Norway, going to America via back door.
Mm-hmm.
But if America was giving us, St. Lucia and other, like St. Vincent said, visa-free, that we could go to work in America and come back to our country, that would be a better help in my days growing up in St. Lucia, because things was, you grind to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
People get up in the morning and go walk 11 miles to go and make garden, and what they produce, they have to carry it on the head in big basket and things like that. Life wasn't easy. See? We could do with a lot of help from America, but they never really help us. Okay?
And I think, too, the other issue, and again, this is the nature of geopolitics, and I'm not saying that it necessarily meant that they couldn't have done more, but because we were a British colony during these times, you would have thought then, I guess, sometimes they think, well, this is the British who have to be doing this. This is the British who have to be providing the support and the development aid and whatnot. And, likewise, let's say Martinique, for instance, and Guadeloupe and the French.
But
so they got a lot of support. But
they know exactly what was going on, and they know the British have the whole Africa, all the country in Africa and everywhere to look after. And whatever resources they have is limited.
Mm. Yeah. And I think the point that you are making is that a lot of the United States would benefited so much in terms of trade, right, with the rest of the world, and certainly right here in the Caribbean, and even in, as you rightly said, even in Africa, for instance. In fact, I was looking at a video that was done in Eritrea, which was at one point part of Ethiopia, and they were on the Red Sea side, and they had a railway which connected their main port and the capital Asmara to the Ethiopian hinterland. And it was built by the Italians, that railway, but the steel that was used was American steel, and coming from Carnegie. So you find that wherever you have a lot of development, the U.S. has benefited tremendously as a result of the trade that exists. Now it's interesting because, again, in the U.S. a lot of there is that issue in terms of a philosophical position as to aid versus should you tax more so that you can give more, or should you tax less so that you allow people to provide through charitable means and philanthropic means. So that's another thing that you find sometimes. You have a lot more of these philanthropic foundations and entities coming out of the United States of America. So they're not direct government agencies, but they, would have engaged in providing assistance. So, for instance, like the Castries Library, the Central Library, the Carnegie Library, which actually turns 100 years this year, that was built through the Carnegie Foundation providing, a grant for that purpose.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting because they have, different ways of doing things, but I think definitely in terms of the government to government relations, definitely we're pretty low. We've been pretty low on the totem pole when it comes to support for aid.
We had 12 murder in St. Lucia by the police or whatever. They move in quick and say we put the Lily law on you all, and we won't train your policeman, we won't train this and we won't train that. So you see how quick they could move in that field.
Yeah.
When there's 1,000 dying every month in America. You see? So they was watching us, but when come to do, they do nothing. Good afternoon, Mr. George.
All right. Thanks very much for that perspective, caller, and have yourself a wonderful day. And of course, the number to call in to tell us what's on your plate is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And of course, yes, a number of other colleges used to provide lots of scholarships to St. Lucian students. Of course, right here and right now, Monroe College, which is a U.S. institution, but even before that, Grambling State over in Louisiana is another one where we saw lots of assistance coming for St. Lucian students as well. Some may also argue that actually is to the benefit of, again, of the state. How are you doing, caller? How are things?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wonderful.
I just know that I'm calling about the gentleman. You talk about the law, the impact thing they have.
Leahy law, that's right, yes.
Yeah, but I think it's because usually America don't allow the policemen together with those kind of things. I suppose that is why they must have placed that kind of measures on us, because when it comes to this thing, that's one thing America, as much as I don't support everything that they do, but I think when it comes to these kind of things, they don't tolerate it. So I see nothing wrong if they had to say. But what I really caught, and talking about, he said America's supposed to help us. We was under British colony.
Well, yeah, up until 1979, we were.
But we still are under them.
Well, we're not. We're no longer under them, but we still have diplomatic relations with the British, and that relationship, that partnership is there. And I think, there has been an attempt somewhat. I mean, the Millennium Highway West Coast Road, for instance, is being done under a UK partnership, infrastructure partnership arrangement. But I guess it's maybe the consistency in terms of certain areas, I think, is really where there might be a lot of concern. And again, I think there's always the politics, at play as well, which is the point.
Because to me, the support has not been vast.
Right, and then the other thing too is the politics that you have dealing with within the United States of America. And it's interesting. It's interesting because on one hand, you have the Republican Party, which tends to be generally more anti-immigration or illegal immigration, and they want to be very more hardline on these issues. But then traditionally, you've heard that the Republican government has tended to be more expansionary, so they're more interested in trade and development arrangements and investing in other places, and has tended to be pretty friendly towards the Caribbean, but then yet still on the flip side of things, the Democratic Party tends to be a little bit more open in terms of immigration policy.
Yes, they are more open.
And perhaps a little bit more welcoming in terms of so we'll have to see how that all, of course, pans out in the coming couple of years to go. Of course, it is a general election year in the United States of America as well. So and it's going to be an interesting time. So we'll have to wait and see how that pans out.
Usually helps the other colonies like Guadeloupe, French Guiana, and all of those places. But when it comes to the African countries, that they do that, because I have my niece who has now residing in Burkina Faso.
Wow!
Yes, that's where she resides now, because she's married to. She was in America, but now she resides there. She's a young person, 33 years old. And she was telling me that they were on this part was under the French, but now they have been driven out of that place because they were not really doing anything.
Well, there's a lot of upheaval against French colonial influence or neo-colonial influence in the former French West African countries. Yes, so that is certainly the case. Yeah, we in Mali, in Niger. Yes. In many of these countries right now, their currency has been tied to and controlled by the Bank of France. There's been a lot of influence there. So, you're right. Yes, the French have been generous maybe towards the Martinique and Guadeloupe, but not so generous in other areas. It's true.
Yes. Because even the dialect, she told me they speak French there, because she don't speak French, but she told me they
Yeah.
Because this place has a lot of gold and all those things, so you find those people. But in that park, they don't allow people to just come in there and do what they want. So they have the government people tripping out and all sorts of people. So they are kind of ruling the country and doing their own thing now, not allowing anybody to come in and do what they want.
And part of the challenge of some of these African states, like Burkina Faso, is that they're landlocked, and they really require the cooperation of other countries for enhancing their trade, their networks, and so it's a challenge there. I mean, the biggest challenge I would say in terms of Africa is having a cohesive plan and people coming together and working together. Yes, there's some efforts to achieve that, but that's a major stumbling block for African development.
If I end, I need to ask a question. Why is it that politicians feel that in order to look good and make another look bad is by just saying anything that comes on in their mouth? Because yesterday, I think there was a press conference, and there you have Mr. Dominic Fedis saying that most of the crime that is being done is done by the supporters of the government.
Yeah, I think he did say something to the effect that the government should know who are these people because they were their supporters. The criminals are supporting the government. That's basically what he said.
But how do you go about saying something like that unless the people, when police arrest people, the first question to them is, what party do you support? And
Caller, this has been a long-standing approach of many a UWP politician.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard these types of statements made in the past, pretty much trying to suggest that the government is in bed with the criminals, and that we've heard, or crime rises. That's the other thing that you've heard already. Whenever the Labour Party is in power, there's a rise in crime, and and almost to suggest basically, yes, that there's some sort of apathy towards
But then how do you
criminal
work
activity.
together to stop the crime? When you're going to use that thing, saying that people are thing, then you're not in support of helping to see if we can curb this thing. And I don't think it's a game that it should be played, especially when it comes to crime. You don't use something like that and say something like that. It's very offensive to other people that are supporting to say that you consider them to be just criminals. There's no data to show that that party or that party are supporters that are criminal. You don't do those things instead of saying how you can help. And you just for political mileage, I listen to you. You also say there are 26 little hospitals. Last Thursday, 2 Thursdays ago, he was with Nancy. 26 little hospitals. How people, they'll have to hold an umbrella to carry people from one part to another and all sorts. So, I also listened to another thing where there's giving...
Paula, what did you mean? I didn't understand the 26 little hospitals. What's that?
He said there are 26 buildings. 26.
He's referring to the St. Jude Hospital project.
Okay. You said there are 26 buildings. Instead of using the state-of-the-art building that they had, so everything would be under one. You're stressing that there's 26
But
buildings.
even the state-of-the-art hospital that you're talking about was still utilizing the vast majority of all these other buildings as well. The physiotherapy was in a separate building, dialysis was in a separate building, the West Wing was still going to be accommodating the kitchen and the administrative offices. They were still using the same laundry. The warehouse building was still going to be the same one. I mean, so that kind of argument is somewhat misleading, to say the least.
Taking one person from one end, if rain is falling, you have to use an umbrella to carry the people on, and all of those
But that's
things.
actually not true, because then again, the three main buildings at St. Jude Hospital, in the original St. Jude Hospital, were all connected. The East Wing, the surgical building, and the West Wing were connected at ground and first floor level, right, by corridors, covered corridors. So that idea, that concept that you have to move patients in the rain is not true. That's just simply not true.
But to people that know it's okay. But what are those other people that don't know and they believe that? Because you have people that are not aware. Because I listen to Silas Wilson when they interview him. It's 14 buildings and explain everything. He gives you all the details, all the information you need to know. And this is done with Candy, also named something Brown. Jade Brown does the interview every, I think, Monday. And
Right.
I think they'll be taking in cousins, but they give you everything. But when you go somewhere else and you keep on saying those things, and people that do not know better believe, people are wondering what the hell is going on.
Well, that is misinformation, and I think it's up to again, as you said, Miss Brown and Mr. Wilson and whoever else from that department to go about and correct that and you've got to be consistent about it. You've got to be continuously, and let's face it, I mean, hospitals are usually very large facilities and they can be very sprawling. They can be across many different buildings.
Yeah.
You have hospitals in the United States of America, they freeways passing through them, and you got on both sides of the freeway. You have hospital. The campus of the hospital is stretching through there. So, look at Eric Williams Medical Complex in Trinidad and Tobago. That's a vast hospital, and you've got the amount of distance you have to walk and travel. Sometimes you have to drive even to move around. So, I mean, that argument I'm not sure is very much